Keeping America competitive requires affordable energy. And here we have a serious problem. America is addicted to oil.
We know that our oil dependency is jeopardizing our planet as well. But the fossil fuels we burn are setting off a chain of dangerous weather patterns that could condemn future generations to global catastrophe. We see the effects of global climate change in our communities and around the world. Record drought, famine, forest fires. Hurricanes are growing in intensity and rapidly melting ice sheets in Antarctica and Greenland. It could raise the global sea levels high enough to swallow up large portions of every coastal city and town around the world.
My name is Bradley Sherman. I'm the founder and executive officer of the Objective University of Washington, which is the UW Objectivist group on campus. So we're hosting this event, which is graciously sponsored by the ARI, and I wanted to kind of throw out a little plug for our group before we start the talk. We meet every Wednesday at 3:30 in room 110 in the Hub. We discuss sort of various philosophical issues centering around Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism. We welcome all viewpoints. It doesn't matter if you are an objectivist or a libertarian or don't know what you believe or you're a socialist, or anyone who wants to come is welcome, so long as you're willing to discuss issues politely and calmly in a group. It's great. We have a lot of fun. We learn a lot, and our goal is kind of more to discover philosophy than it is to teach it or teach it to you. So we'll probably be debriefing on this talk tomorrow at our meeting tomorrow. That's again at 3:30 in Hub 110. And if you want to get on our mailing list, we have a mailing list over by the door. If you put your name on that, you'll get email updates about our club and about future stuff we might be doing like this in the future. So look into that if you're interested. Today's talk is going to be on In Defense of Oil by Mr. Alex Epstein. He's a fellow at the Ayn Rand Institute, an analyst on business issues. He's written rather prolifically in several publications on environmental issues. I think I've read some bioethics articles by you actually that I would recommend looking at. But please enjoy, and there'll be a question and answer period after. Is that correct? Sure. Great. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right.
So who wants to know I have 3 plastic bottles?
Nice job.
Can anyone guess?
Looks like air.
What's that?
Looks like air.
Looks like air. Yeah, there's air, inside and outside. This is how much oil each one of us consumes on average every day. My goal in the next 45 minutes or so is to convince you this is a very, very good thing. That in fact, you should want 1 or 2 more of these bottles a day. Now, I realize this is almost insane, given what we hear in the culture. Imagine if it's the equivalent basically as if I had just brought this in, but instead of air, there were beer in here. And I said, you know what? I consume 3 gallons of beer a day. And I smiled at you and I looked proud. I had accomplished something. What beer is fun? You'd say, that's not good. You don't have more. You're insane. And you're probably going to die soon. And that's more or less the view of oil. That we consume way too much of it, that it's recklessly irresponsible, and that we as a culture are really harming ourselves. We're harming ourselves, harming others, we're harming the world that we live in. And the name for this, the kind of best summation of this viewpoint, is what George W. Bush called, and now everyone calls, our addiction to oil. our addiction to it. So let's look at this idea. Now you can imagine I don't agree with it, but let's look at what is the case for it, because it really does have a plausibility to it. So the way I like to think of our addiction to oil, to keep it easy to remember in my own head, is I call it the 3 F's. So oil is an addiction because oil is finite, because oil is foreign, and because oil is a fossil fuel. So finite, foreign, fossil fuel. Finite is, there's only a certain amount of oil in the earth, and what's more, oil doesn't renew. It's not like the sun, which keeps coming indefinitely for the next, whatever million years. Once we use a barrel of oil, it's pretty much gone forever. And therefore, in popular theory, at some point, our daily production of oil has to peak. This is called the idea of peak oil. We're going to reach a point where we can no longer keep increasing our consumption of oil, and at that point, we'll be so reliant on oil that it'll start plummeting, and our prices will be jacked up to the moon. We might like oil now, but we'll regret that we ever got hooked on this, just like a junkie regrets getting on heroin. So that's the first F. Second F is foreign. And this refers to the fact that 2/3 of the oil that we consume comes from other countries. And the idea is that because it comes from other countries, we're dependent on these other countries. And this is particularly bad, this alleged dependence, because some of the countries that dominate the world market are countries that don't like us, and we don't particularly like them. Countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia. So the idea is we're helplessly dependent on these countries, and therefore we might be enjoying oil today, but at any moment they could cut us off and really wreck our lives. So that's number 2. Now, number 3 is definitely the most popular argument. Oil is an addiction because oil is a fossil fuel. So when we emit oil, oil is what's called a hydrocarbon, just like coal and natural gas. So it's made up of hydrogen and carbon atoms, and when we burn it, it releases, on the one hand, water vapor, which people have no problem with. On the other hand, it releases CO2, which people have a big problem with, because it's connected to the idea of the greenhouse effect, and as CO2 accumulates in the atmosphere, the Earth warms to some degree, although there's debate over that. But in the dominant view, best summarized by Al Gore's movie An Inconvenient Truth, the amount of CO2 that we're emitting from oil and other fossil fuels is catastrophic. It's bringing about catastrophic climate change, and therefore it's an addiction. Even if we like it today, it's bringing us to disaster tomorrow. So those are the 3 F's. Whatever my original model. So, for every addiction, we need a treatment program. What's the treatment program for our addiction to oil? Well, it's kind of twofold. The basic thing is we have to forbid people from consuming nearly as much oil, as well as for point 3, other fossil fuels, as we can. So Barack Obama has repeatedly endorsed the kind of UN viewpoint that we need to cut our consumption of fossil fuels by 80% from 1990 levels. And 1990 levels are lower than today, so it really means cutting our consumption by 85%. So 85%, broadly speaking, of our coal, of our oil, of our natural gas.